Just into our newsroom, the Supreme Court on Monday has ruled that the Obama administration failed to consider costs when deciding to regulate mercury pollution from power plants. We want to go straight to our Jan Crawford and Ilya Shapiro, who are there in front of the Supreme Court. Guys, tell us about this and what does it mean?
Well, another 5-4 ruling from the Supreme Court. This one a big loss for the Obama administration and some of its environmental efforts. The justices, in this opinion by Justice Scalia, are saying no, they have to consider when they're looking at those pollutions being emitted and regulating that, the cost of that. And it's a hugely significant ruling, obviously, for the coal industry, for the power industry, but also a big defeat for the administration. Ilya has been closely following this case, and I know he's got some things to read out from the bench statement as well.
Yeah, I should mention I filed a brief supporting the challenge to the EPA here, and this is a significant part of that narrative about whether Obama's governing by executive action and so forth. Here, he's slapped down. Scalia said, this is from the bench statement, not from the opinion, but he
Which
said...
means this is what he was reading for the bench inside the courtroom.
Right, to explain what the opinion was. He said, one would not say it's even rational, never mind appropriate, to impose billions of dollars in economic costs in return for a few dollars in health or environmental benefits. But the EPA didn't even do that here. They didn't even say, well, the benefits are some, and who cares what the costs were. They didn't do any sort of consideration whatsoever. And here's what the court's saying. You have to take that into account. Otherwise, you're acting irrationally, and we cannot defer to the agency in that consideration.
And you guys, I mean, Ilya and I were talking about this obviously before we went on air, and he was making the point that of all the big cases that will have an enormous impact on American life that we've been talking about, Obamacare, you know, the same-sex marriage case, of course, the death penalty, this case, of all the cases, is the big dollar case of the term, the one that will impact the most in terms of just pure bottom line.
Billions of dollars from this one regulation and potentially increasing electricity costs, power costs for consumers, but now that's been struck down, and the EPA could try to go for it again if it conducts a cost-benefit analysis.
Yeah, guys, according to some reports, the industry was saying that the cost of this, if the regulations had gone into effect, would be some $9 billion. But it turns out, in fact, that many of these power plants are already in compliance, yes?
They are in some respects. I mean, it's unclear exactly what it demands. The thing is, what the EPA was ruling on was mercury emissions, and those are very hard to scrub for. This was basically, they were using mercury as a proxy to get after greenhouse gases because the court's already ruled that they don't have, under the current law, the power to go after them that way. So it's as you can tell, it's very technical. It's unclear exactly what would have been going on, but if this had stood, if this regulation had stood, it really would have been opened the floodgates, to mix metaphors, for the administration, for the EPA to go after energy producers it didn't like.
And I think that's really the kind of the bottom line significant thing here. I mean, this is going to put some restraints now on the administration as it goes forward in trying to regulate climate change or impact on climate change with its environmental programs. There will be some checks on that.
And again, Scalia writing the opinion, he's written a lot, a dissent or a majority in every case, it seems, for the last week. But he goes up on a high. This is a signature Scalia opinion about administrative law. I wonder how Scalia's feeling now, whether he needs to go out for a drink.
It's gonna drop the mic and go have some red wine.
Well, but you know, this is, and I wonder how significant. I'm not a lawyer or a scientist, but I wonder how significant this ruling is vis-a-vis the previous two Supreme Court decisions that ruled in favor of the Obama administration. One, to regulate greenhouse emissions from plants, and the other, back in April of 2014, that regulated air pollution across state lines.
Well, I mean, like I said, I think this one is going to be a pretty powerful, baseline restraint on some of those efforts to regulate pollution.
Each administrative law case is very technical and has to be taken on its own terms, but this one, combined with what's known as UARG, but anyway, the big greenhouse gas case from last term, shows that there is some cabining, some limitation by the court on the administrative state. And note that Chief Justice Roberts joined this opinion in full. He's been with Scalia in every opinion today, frankly, so it does seem like Obamacare is an aberration, as Scalia wrote, that there's a special ruling, at least from Chief Justice Roberts, on how he approaches statutory questions when they involve Obamacare.
Right, and we've been talking about the Chief Justice in his role and how conservatives have really felt betrayed by John Roberts, obviously nominated to the bench by President Bush, and a lot of people thought that he was going to turn the court or help turn the court in a more conservative direction. So the Obamacare decisions, when he twice joined with liberals to save the president's health care law, here, as Ilya points out, he's with his conservatives.
All right, thank you both. We appreciate your insight. More news in a moment. You're watching CBSN.